Single mum Misha packing school lunches is a source of stress.
Having 3 boys that eat a lot, I'd say it's like a day-to-day problem. They have come home and said that they're still hungry and if I could put more in their lunchbox, but I just don't have anything else to put in there.
Australia wastes 7.6 million tonnes of food annually. That's an average of 312 kilograms per person. In other words, that's about 450 loaves of bread per person. This might seem odd given the current cost of living challenges, but it makes a little more sense when you realise that
Australian supermarkets make significant profits from food waste.
The early government studies estimate that wasted food costs households $19.3 billion each year. If we apply the average profit margin of 6% to that $19.3 billion cost of wasted food, then the profit on that wasted food is $1.2 billion. This gives retailers like Coles and Woolworths 1.2 billion reasons to go slow on reducing.
More expensive, everything's more expensive.
I've just bought $90 worth of stuff and it fits in one basket.
They'll end up getting cat food to eat.
Australia Institute research shows that while a growing number of Australians are being forced to choose between medication and food, corporations have been making off with enormous profits, gouging customers with prices that are well above their costs, and that this is actually the main culprit in driving inflation.
Australia and many other countries, such as the US, are facing a housing affordability crisis. The average home price in some cities is now 10 to 15 times the average household income, and at the same time, interest rates are at the highest point in over a decade. But if buying a home is so unaffordable, why are prices going up so fast? Why are they expected to continue rising for the foreseeable future? And if you're in the market to buy a property, should you buy now or wait for conditions to improve? The housing affordability situations in Australian cities are some of the worst in the world. The average home in Melbourne just reached a new all-time high of $1 million.
A recent revolt from within the QPS ranks after a senior Gold Coast police officer, Senior Sergeant Aaron Ottaway, was stood down following a claim he helped catch armed offenders by authorising officers ram a stolen car. Recent reports show that another 2 Gold Coast police officers are facing disciplinary action after helping catch armed juvenile offenders in a stolen car. Don't they know? You're not allowed to catch criminals in Queensland under Commissioner Carroll's watch. Of course, the ABC are pointing out that in 2019 she became the first woman commissioner. That's the only thing that matters now over at the ABC. Identity. 2019, when Commissioner Carroll got the top job. This is all offences, noting that there was a significant drop when Queensland declared a public health emergency. You may remember that. Due to people going out less crime was obviously being committed, but it's certainly headed back up since then. But more interestingly, you can filter by types of crime. Let's look at all offences against the person, so things like murder, assault, sexual offences, robbery and so on. The results are much more telling. There has been a significant increase in violent crime, you're not imagining it, but this is the raw numbers, it doesn't take into account population increases, but you can show the rate instead of the raw numbers just above the graph. So let's click on that. So yes, even when accounting for population increase, violent crime has been on the rise.
Australia is in the throes of a healthcare crisis. This third Omicron wave has led to hospital wards being inundated and pushed to their capacity. Capacity shortages has been a long time coming.
We are busy, but EDs are in trouble because of a whole hospital system problem.
Over 43,000 people a day are now contracting COVID in Australia. That's seen a significant spike in COVID-related hospitalisations. Currently, more than 5,000 are admitted. She questions recent New South Wales and Victorian state government announcements which have pledged an increase in staff levels in hospitals.
Some of our state governments are also saying that they're funding more workforce positions right now. If we're announcing a new workforce, who are that new workforce? And it's very difficult to create a new doctor or a new nurse on a short time frame. So I think we're facing a health system that's not fit for purpose any longer, and it's letting down the Australian public.
Get out of bed rather than falling out of bed.
Jean Robbins had recently broken her leg and was bedridden, but with the onset of dementia, she's forgotten she can't walk.
By the arms. So you can see the hand bruising from her being picked up, where they're supposed to use a hoist to pick up any resident.
Carers think it's funny when Jean Robbins lashes out after one of them grabs her sore leg.
Shocked, disgusted, upset. You can see her face that she was mad at them for laughing at her. There was no respect. And we just notice more and more where they're abusing them.
The federal government's proposed crackdown on fake news will not affect mainstream media, according to Communications Minister Michelle Rowland. Tech giants could be fined millions of dollars if they allow the spread of misinformation and disinformation on their platforms under the proposed legislation. Ms. Rowland today said professional news content is specifically excluded
terms of enforcement. So this is about the regulator holding the platforms to account for what they say they will do about harmful mis and disinformation. Professional news content is specifically excluded.
Unfolding this cancer two particular ways. It is remarkable, given the level of concentration of monopoly ownership, that they could sit here and justify before you how for 19 straight elections over the last 10 years, state and federal, they could viciously campaign for one side of politics and viciously against the other. I read this morning again the Code of Conduct for Journalists, the Media, Arts and Entertainment Alliance. I looked at the guidelines of the Australian Press Council. They're all about balanced and fair reporting. None of that. And then when you see here's a classic unbiased Murdoch front page of the Queensland state election. You don't deserve to win. But on the news pages, the obligation under the various codes of conduct for the Press Council and for individual journalists is to produce fair and balanced reporting of the facts. So where I really worry about the cancer setting in, Senator Hanson Young, is that this conflation of news reporting with opinion to produce headlines like this, which we now take in this country as being virtually normal.
It can be operating very soon. All they need to do is capture that CO2 and put it back into the reserves a few kilometres from here, which have held CO2 for millions and millions of years here. So this is a straightforward operation.
So straightforward. Millions and millions of years, the CO2's been living there happily. We pull it out, we say, we need a friend, you go back down in there, you just stay down in there. It's really straightforward. It's so straightforward that we've never been able to make this work to date. Despite millions of dollars spent, we haven't been able to make something really straightforward. One project in Australia that is actually working. Not fully operational, just in 2016 they were supposed to, under their agreement, start capturing the CO2 that was coming out of a gas facility similar to Moonlight and putting it back underground. Wasn't working in 2016, wasn't working in 2017, wasn't working in 2018. In 2019, they took out the stream, was like, woohoo, we got it working, finally. And then it never worked to full operation. In fact, they found a whole bunch of problems when they did get it started, and so it hasn't sequestered anything close to what it was supposed to sequester. The result is about 10 million tons of CO2 that has been released instead of buried through the straightforward method. To give you an idea of what 10 million tons of CO2 looks like, it's about the same size as every single flight taken in Australia for a whole year.
Australia is on fire, and it's bigger than you think. 12.35 million acres of land have been burnt by bushfires so far. That's almost twice the size of Belgium, and 3 times more land than the 2018 California fires and Brazil's 2019 Amazon fire combined. Flames have reportedly reached 7 meters high. That's taller than the Sydney Opera House. At least 19 people have been killed and more than 1,400 homes have been destroyed. Residents and tourists have been forced to relocate. Nearly 500 million animals have died in New South Wales alone. Fires aren't just in one location, they're raging everywhere across the country.
We really enjoy doing this. Thank you very much. I've got 7 houses already in Nelligan. I'm not going to lose any more, you
Stand down now. You don't deserve government. You knew this was coming. If they're coming for a few years, you've been totally ignorant of it. Now, we know it's not coming.
Look, William, and the birthday. Paul Parker from Nelligan. Meet you any day. Help.
The Australian dream. We sing of it and we recite it in verse. Australians all let us rejoice when we are young and free. My people die young in this country. We die 10 years younger than average Australian, and we are far from free. We are fewer than 3% of the Australian population, and yet we are 25%, a quarter of those Australians, locked up in our prisons. And if you are a juvenile, it is worse, it is 50%. An Indigenous child is more likely to be locked up in prison than they are to finish high school. The Australian dream is rooted in racism. It is the very foundation of the dream. It is there at the birth of the nation. It is there in terra nullius, an empty land, a land for the taking. 60,000 years of occupation. A people who made the first seafaring journey in the history of mankind. A people of law, L-O-R-E, a people of music and art and dance and politics. None of it mattered because our rights were extinguished because we were not here according to British law. And when British people looked at us, they saw something subhuman, and if we were human at all, we occupied the lowest rung on civilization's ladder. We were fly-blown Stone Age savages, and that was the language that was used. Charles Dickens, the great writer of the age, when referring to the noble savage of which we were counted among, said it would be better that they be wiped off the face of the earth. Captain Arthur Phillip, a man of enlightenment, a man who was instructed to make peace with the so-called natives in a matter of years, was sending out raiding parties with the instruction, bring back the severed heads of the black troublemakers. Aren't you no one, when we became a nation, when we federated the colonies, we were nowhere. We're not in the Constitution, save for race provisions, which allowed the laws to be made that would take our children, that would invade our privacy, that would tell us who we could marry and tell us where we could live, the Australian dream. By 1963, the year of my birth, the dispossession was continuing. Police came at gunpoint, under cover of darkness, to Mapoon, an Aboriginal community in Queensland, and they ordered people from their homes, and they burned those homes to the ground, and they gave the land to a bauxite mining company, and today those people remember that as the night of the burning. In 1963, when I was born, I was counted among the flora and fauna, not among the citizens of this country. Now you'll hear things tonight, you'll hear people say, but you've done well. Yes, I have, and I'm proud of it. And why have I done well? I've done well because of who has come before me. My father, who lost the tips of 3 fingers working in sawmills to put food on our table because he was denied an education. My grandfather, who served to fight wars for this country when he was not yet a citizen and came back to a segregated land where he couldn't even share a drink with his digger mates in the pub because he was black. My great-grandfather, who was jailed for speaking his language to his grandson, my father, jailed for it. My grandfather on my mother's side, who married a white woman who reached out to Australia, lived on the fringes of town until the police came, put a gun to his head, bulldozed his tin humpy, and ran over the graves of the 3 children he buried there. That's the Australian dream. I have succeeded in spite of the Australian dream, not because of it, and I've succeeded because of those people. You might hear tonight, but you have white blood in you, and if the white blood in me was here tonight, my grandmother, she would tell you of how she was turned away from a hospital, giving birth to her first child because she was giving birth to the child of a black person.